Prabhupada for knowing about Nrsimha and the deep connection he taught in his his teachings about how important it is for us to take shelter of Nrsimha as our father and protector, right? Whose prayer do we chant the most in all of our, yeah, we don't do Guru Puja 3 times a day. We don't do Sundar, we don't do Mangalarti 3-4 times a day. But Nrsimha prayers, actually there's no limit. You can chant after any time, Tulsi Puri, whatever. And Srila Prabhupada really installed that essence of Nrsimha and Prahlad Maharaj's teachings because, first of all, we need it to remove the envy and jealousy and pride. And I don't know if any of you speak Hindi, but I grew up in India, so I learned Hindi, and there's Abhiman, this word means proud, like the boy Abhimanyu, Arjuna's son. He was the most powerful of all everybody put together, even his own father, Arjuna. And they told him, please do not go, because they knew he would be killed. But his Abhiman, he was very strong and proud. He went anyways, and then they cheated and all ganged up on him and killed him because of his Abhiman. So this is a pretty bad disease in our contemporary world, pride, envy, and jealousy. And Nrsimha exclusively works on this. And when I was young, I didn't know, growing up in beautiful ISKCON, they just told us they said there's Lakshmi Nrsimha, and then there's that form which we all love where he's killing him, the blood, this famous painting by Jadharani. She's so amazing. She actually did 2. One of them got sold to a very, very wealthy Indian devotee. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. And then the other one is in LA Temple. That's a copy. The original is only small. And I spoke to her when she was about it, because she really loves Nrsimha. And I was with her and some other senior Prabhupada disciples, Brahmananda, Gargamuni, Yamuna, all my uncles and aunties. So I was really trying to delve into not skipping Radha and Krishna, but getting to the essence of how do you get to Radha and Krishna? Because we are full of anarthas, envy, jealousy, pride. Lust is not really an anartha, it's kind of biology. But if you're struggling with pride and envy and jealousy, then lust becomes a problem. Anger becomes a problem. Krodha bhavati sammohat, it says in Bhagavad Gita, all loss of intelligence, right? Anger, disillusion. Reading Srila Prabhupada's teachings and his guru's teachings, who is Srila Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Yeah, and he was like a lion. And who was his guru? His dad, Bhaktivinoda. Bhaktivinoda's prayers to Nrsimadeva are awesome. And most of us ISKCON followers don't even know them. Bhaktivinoda saying, I'm full of envy, jealousy, greed, and pride. Can you imagine Bhaktivinoda saying this, right? That was the level he was on. Nrsimha, kindly take me by the hands and remove these, like you removed Hiranyakashipu's intestines. Remove these from me. So when I was young, nothing was explained so much about Nrsimha except he's your father. So when I was 4 and they threw us in Gurukul, I was kind of lucky. I got to go. And, we had to learn the Gita, get up at 2 a.m. and chant, and menial service. Like at 2 a.m. we would go to the temple and clean before all the swamis came to do Mangalarti. And this big black devotee, Lokamangala, he was one of our ashram teachers. He was a very far out guy. He had a deep voice, just like Prahlad. Because Prahlad, they believe in his last life, was a Rakshasa. Flesh eater. So he kidnapped a woman and he brought her to a temple of Vishnu, and the woman said, excuse me, I'm not some dirty, no, you have to clean this. So he started cleaning with his, like cheap. She said, no, it's about the feeling. It's about the way you do it, right? So then he had to he said, you have to clean it with love. right? Like Prahlad, Patra Pushpam, you can offer him anything, but it has to be with love and devotion. Even a leaf, you can offer God a leaf. I often joke, imagine if you offer your wife or girlfriend or husband a leaf and say, oh, my love, I love you so much, here's a leaf. Your wife will be like, did you miss the flower section of this one? Flowers aren't that expensive. But, Prahlad's teachings are so fantastic. He didn't say fanaticism. He didn't say crazy, heavy, repressing your senses, right? Like fake repression. He was actually against that. He said, with love and devotion. So in Gurukul, we were taught this. We're kids. Prahlad's a kid. So all the boys and girls at that time, we were kind of, girls had the right side, the boys had the left side. In New Vrindavan, there was 2 levels. And there, you don't get this. Do you get snow here? Something. No. Anyways, there is so cool. So, we were up at 2, and this teachings of Prahlad resonated with all of us kids. Because look, Prahlad had a sister, Holika. The color, that's her. Most of us ISKCON devotees don't know. The reason we celebrate Holi is because of Holika, Prahlad's sister. She was a great, great devotee, and this was her boon and her blessing. The release of colors, it signifies also a party and like Holi is like a party. It's insane. It's color, it's joyful happiness in celebrating your relationship with the Lord. This was her blessing. So Prahlad Maharaj cleaned in his past life the temple room so nicely with such love. He cleaned the deity. She said, you have to clean the statue. I said, so much that he didn't go through with his, what, these wild guys do. They kidnap the girl and then they want to enjoy. He was overwhelmed. So this is mentioned in one Purana. And Prahlad Maharaj and Nrsimadeva's relationship happens differently in many different universes. For us lucky ones, he came out of the pillar, the stamba. Like in Mayapur, we have, this is not Ugra Nrsimha, this is Stanu Nrsimha, or Stambadri Nrsimha, just emerged from the pillar. Stambadri represents the feminine. So he came out of the pillar, like a womb. All these subtle things. I had no clue when I was 4 or 5. All I knew is I loved Nrsimha. He was my dad, because my dad told me he was my dad. And that he would always protect me. All of us kids knew that. And then in New Vrindavan, they installed a huge deity, which was made out of fiberglass. My uncle Soma and Kumar had a workshop, so we used to go there. Well, I would always run away from Gurukul, but I was very obnoxious, anti-rules, anti-institutional stuff. So we would go to Soma, and he would be making this Nrsimha. Huge, and we're little kids. And me and my friend Krishna Loka, we posed for the little Prahlad deity, which is standing there. We were that tall, we were 4. So I'll never forget it. That deity was installed before Mayapur Nrsimha. Every Prabhupada disciple came there. It was in 85, I think it was. Yeah, my 6th year. And the temple room was packed. There's like 1,000 devotees. I'll never forget, I was a little kid, and all of us kids, they bring this huge deity in through the door, and everybody was screaming, Nrsimha, Nrsimha. And then they were doing kirtan. When the women are crying, rolling on the ground, the men, sannyasis, are completely in tears. But for us, we're kids, we didn't understand this was just Nrsimha is coming. They kept saying, he's coming, he's coming. And then the double doors swang open, and he was lying on his back, and they had these big beams, and the big strong guys were carrying him like how they carry Jagannath, But, so it was just 2 beams, and that deity weighs, 500 or 600 pounds or something. So as they're going, all of us boys and the girls went underneath him, and we were helping. And then the kirtan got more intense as he got closer. And then people started screaming, but we couldn't hear. the wood was breaking and he was going to fall on us and crush us. So a few of the Swamis, you would know, Radhanath, well, he wasn't a Swami back then. Radhanath, Shivaram, all these Tamal, they were all there. So we start getting dragged up, but the kirtan we just thought it was kirtan getting more and more intense. And we get dragged out, so we're screaming, no! Sometimes I see my second generation friends who sadly, because of their own trauma, left the movement. But even though a lot of them eat meat, you can imagine they started eating meat and drinking, but they might hate the movement, they might have a lot of disdain, but when it comes to Nrsimha and Prahlad and Prabhupada, that's their soft spot. Everything else is like, and then all of a sudden, he did fall, but they caught him, all these strong guys, right in front of the altar, and then it got more intense. And then the women, literally, like nobody cared. It was like they were in this trance, and they turned him around and put him on the asan, and he just kind of rocked back. Like he fell back, and then he came forward with his hand, boom, and then everybody went, ah, like at a Led Zeppelin concert or something. Everybody, that's what it felt like I'd never been to a concert, but it was like roaring, And then, boom, I got to do the first puja. I didn't ask, I just went in there. There was this guy called Ganga, Prabhupada disciple, Spanish devotee. He's very sweet Brahmin. So us kids just kind of took over. And so we climbed on Nrsimha, because he came in bare, just with copins. And they had that one Mataji Ishani made it was pure gold, pure silver, like the 1 kilo. We climbed on him and we were dressing him, putting his crown on, putting the eyes on. All the kids, the girls. And then we did the puja, and it just was like this. That was when I got kind of addicted to the, just knowing that he's the Supreme Father, protector. Even though I was so young, 5. And then, fast forward, I became a teenager, and I was the eldest there's 6 of us. I'm the eldest, a lot of responsibility for the eldest. But my father was always an entrepreneur. Like the money man of ISKCON and other stuff. And so I was always with him. So I understood that you don't have to have a job to do whatever you want, plus do your Krishna stuff, because I saw that with my parents. So I was anti-school, I still am, unless you're going to be a doctor, scientist, why go to school, mathematician? Now you don't need any of it, you just ask Suri. Hey Siri, what's square to the root? Okay. So that's what my kid tells me. Why do I have to go to school? I said, you don't have to go to school. Don't go to school. I said, but if you're having a problem, I said, we never used to have. Now you can just ask your phone, and the teacher won't find out. And so I saw all my friends gravitating more towards the typical, boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't know, just the normal stuff, which is fine. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And I guess I was chasing that high I had when I was 5. In ISKCON, when you grow up in it, these kirtans were nuts. I mean, you remember those old days. There was something about it. Everybody was dancing. It was like a mosh pit, but not crazy, not low level stuff. But it was like just. Nobody was sitting down. Like now we have these sitting kind of, I don't understand it. Like we're supposed to be dancing in front of them. Like crazy. That's how it used to be. And I was, 14, 15 and an entrepreneur. And then I ended up getting into such material modeling, but I was always protected in Miami with Keshav Swami. You remember Keshav Swami? I heard now he's in Brazil. Anyways, he was like a mafia guy. He left his cartel family. He was like a total gangster. Came from one of the wealthiest families in Brazil. I didn't know. He was managing the temple in Miami, and I was modeling there in the 60s with very famous people. So I'm making a lot of money. And one day I brought all my model friends, You know their names, especially if you're old like me. Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell. She was very evil, but she was, but she was abused by her family, so it makes sense when you find so many of these Giselle Bundchen, all these models, which at that time I didn't know because we didn't have Instagram. You would just go and take photos with famous, and get paid and go home. So my friend, who was a Karmi, Michelle, she gave me her mansion on South Beach. So I went from like the ashram in Alachua with, what was it? We had the boys' ashram and also Akuti, and I love Akuti and Lakshmani, and like we were all kind of just doing our stuff, bus tours, and and then boom, right from that into modeling, which is the most, but I was protected. I had my puja, and I had this house, and I was the only one living in it. And then all these girls were like, "Hey, can we rent a room for me?" I was like, "Yeah, but I had no meat eating, no drugs, and no alcohol. It's my rules." Okay, but can we do outside? Of course. So every day after the photo shoots, they would go to a party. It's a big thing, right? I wasn't interested because I knew there was alcohol and drugs. And I don't have a problem with anyone doing what they want to do, but I don't have to be there. So they would be like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Well, I got to go to this party." "Whoa, what? Girls want to be at the party. They don't want to be on the lower level." And I'd be like, no. You just go to your club, and this is my thing, okay? And you're not, I'd be like, "I'm here in the party scene, and you guys are kind of here." I was doing everything to make them leave me alone, because I didn't want to make them feel they had to come to like a Hare Krishna temple. Like, that's my deal. They had to put up with my vegetarian cooking and my puja and ringing a bell at 5 a.m. So, and reading Bhagavad Gita every night. We didn't have Netflix back then. And so one day they all ganged up on me, like 8 girls. After we did a shoot on the beach, and they're all there in their bathing suits, "Where are you going?" I'm like, my uncle Keshav's, he's got this party, and he asked me to come early. No. We're coming today. I said, "No, you got to go to, Bruce has the party later," famous photographer Bruce Weber. So I knew I could get out of it. And no. We're coming with you. So they flagged down back in Miami, you get the big Ford van taxis. And we went to Coconut Grove. And they're all in their sarongs, like they. So I was thinking, Keshav Swami was so chilled out, like totally mellow, not fanatic. So I showed up, and I'm like, knock on the door. And, he would just be in his gumsha, because we would clean the temple. And like, nobody really would come at that time, And he opens the door, and I'm like with all these girls. And he's like, he like covers it. Is that everything okay? I was like, "Maharaj, they're here for the party." The party. And he's like, "Oh, yes, it's a little late today. The musicians haven't arrived yet." There was only him and like 2 other people. And it was amazing. So we go in there, and he did hand some of them his saffron cloth. These girls are like wearing his sannyasis to cover and he did it so nicely, not to ignite the feminism, unnecessary ego thing, because when you go before the temple or church, you should dress modestly, man or woman. And so I wouldn't dare tell them what to wear, because I live with them. I didn't want to be in trouble. So he comes with his mridanga, and he has this angelic voice, like, "You're beautiful," like, "Hare Krishna." He would sing like a Bengali Baba, like amazing. And he was so sweet, Krishna, and he played the mridanga. And then there's one guy on kartals, and the pujari blows the horn, and then the curtains open. And I was mesmerized because I loved his kirtan. And I didn't notice the girls, but I felt their vibration of ecstasy. And it spilt on me. I was standing right next to them. it was like a wave, and then my hairs, you know how you get the goosebumps? And I was like, what is this? This is unbelievable. I mean, I know his kirtan is beautiful. And I look over and they're all crying. All their mascara is going on his saffron curls. I was like, oh boy, Mars is gonna have to burn those. You know, I was like messing. And they were in absolute, on another level, like we always heard when I was young, this ecstasy, this spiritual connection. It was making me, and it just hit me. That's what I felt when I was 5, when Nrsimadeva came in. But how are these girls meat beef eaters? They drink, they smoke, they're total illicit. How do they have it? So then it hit me. Prahlad Maharaj was right. It's not, the show that he was telling all his classmates. It's just bringing Narayan into your life. You don't have to change your cloth. You don't have to change your svadharma, what you're doing. You just have to bring the Lord with you and offer everything unto him. He said, Narayanaya iti. Everything comes from you. Everything is for you. Right? So even if you get a pair of socks, that was made by the Lord's energy. Thank you for these warm socks to keep me warm in the winter. Thank you for my new car. Thank you for it just immediately a light bulb went on, and these girls' ecstasy overwhelmed me. And the evening kirtan was only like 5 minutes, And keeps going, and then he blows the conch, and he's shutting the curtains. I don't know if any of you have been to Miami. It's something special, so big, white marble, And the girls said, no, don't. They're like ecstasy, and I was like, God, wow, that's like so real. I've never said that. I never felt, no, don't close the curtains. I was always like, close the curtains. I want to go get breakfast. When we were in Gurukul, we were so hungry because we were up from 2 a.m. So their ecstasy really overwhelmed me, and then they were hooked. Every night they ruined my time with Keshav Swami, my party. And after he kept open a little bit, and then he started Nrsimha prayers, and they knew about Nrsimha already from me. They knew the mantras. And then they closed, and then they said, oh, what's next? And I said, well, you guys go home. I'll see you later. Me and Swamiji got some stuff we got to do. But what are you doing? They were so. I said, no, but this is my own private party now, and I won't do anything. And then they were so persistent. So then Maharaj saw that, and he's like, well, girls, Dhruva comes every night, and he likes to clean the floor after everybody's shut. The lights are off, and then Prabhupada's awesome light was on, and it's just my thing, my selfish thing I like to do. But they stole it from me. So I had all these beautiful girls on their hands and knees in front of Krishna's altar cleaning. And I forgot about them once I started my Nrsimadeva journey, which was that year, my 16th year. From them, I found out about where Nrsimadeva manifests, the pillar and the Hobalam. I forgot about them. But over the years, I would run into some of them in Australia. I would run into in Dubai, random places. And most all of them, except Kate and Naomi, went vegetarian and vegan. And they all kept Nrsimha in their mind, or the Hare Krishna mantra. A lot of them suffered from anxiety. A lot of them struggled in their lives, with drugs and alcohol. So I always told them, if you're feeling really, worried, anxiety, just chant Hare Krishna. It just means, God, please come to me and protect me. I said, you don't have to chant the whole mantra, just say Hare Krishna or say Jai Nrsimha. So I'd meet some of them, and some of them marry very, very, very wealthy men. They're blessed in their life. And I always think, wow, like they did a little bit of something, like Prahlad said, with love and devotion. And they were like, totally taken care of. I traveled for 30 years and found at 1,478 temples, and Lord Nrsimha maybe, kicked my, my butt. A lot of struggle, tapasya, amazing stuff, But these girls, just by that one time, and then they kept coming every night. And then for about 10 times they came, and on the last time, Keshav Swami asked us to clean the upstairs mezzanine library. And that temple, a lot of the early ISKCON sannyasis who collected Vedic wisdom books and the Puranas, everything, you name it. That was an amazing library, and it hadn't been touched for like 20 years, So he asked if we could clean it, and the girls were already up there. They were so enthusiastic. And these women were desired by everybody. No man could tell them what to do. But this little Swami, they got in that temple, and their inherent being came out. The child, like Prahlad, came out. No ego, no pride. So we went up there, and I grabbed a stack of books, slammed it on the table, and a bunch of books fell. So I didn't really notice. I got another, then boom. And I looked down, and it said, Ahobilam, 9 temples of Nrsimha, in English. Lost in the jungle, abandoned. I was like, what the hell is it? Ahoba what? So I just sit down and start reading. And the girls were like, what's going on? What did you find? I said, I found him. They said, who? I said, Nrsimha. They said, what do you mean? I said, this is where he manifests. There's like a pillar. And there's 9 temples in the jungle. And they were like, you have to go there. You have to go immediately. They totally had my back. So, but I was like, on my 16th year, my parents, I somewhat listened to them sometimes, but I arranged to go by myself to Ahobilam. Not speaking Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, any of those languages of the South. I had Hey, Haribo, Guru, how are you? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. And I had Jadharani's painting, which in India, they don't really worship that painting. That's a very Western idea of how Nrsimha looks, and that's not how Nrsimha looks. Lord Nrsimha doesn't have a lion head like we would assume. And I didn't know that at the time because I didn't read the Upanishads and the Vedas and everything, the Puranas. So I got to Ahobilam, and that was a miraculous adventure. Tigers sleeping in the temples, the bears came. That was insane. And from that is where my real addiction started. Addiction is somewhat of a bad word, people say, but at that time I didn't know. But now it's like, oh my God, addiction. And I joke with my wife, she's always getting on my case. You're always leaving, harassing me. And I always say, listen, it's called spiritual manipulation. I said, listen up, darling. I could have a lot worse addictions. Remember so-and-so? Remember? I just love Nrsimha. And then she said, okay, fine. Spiritual manipulation 101. So I kind of delved into this, and I had no desire at that time. I was only 16. I became like addicted, and I didn't speak any languages. I didn't know that I would disappear in the jungles of Andhra Pradesh for like 6 months and find like 200 temples. And I had just a notebook, and I would wear very little. I had this thing called a kamandala, this pot here with a handle. I had a different one, and I would wear practically nothing because I'm from Florida. Florida, you just wear a shirt. No shirt. You go to the grocery store, just shorts on and flip-flops. So I like the devotee clothes. You just wear a little gamcha and a chadar. And in India, they had the pumps. I would just go to the train station, the bus station, and these cool sadhus would just pump for me, and I get under there, and you're dry in 10 minutes. And then I would hold up a photo of Nrsimha. I say Nrsimha Mandir, which is north. But in south, they say Nrsimadeva Sthanam, place of worship. And then they would just write in my notebook in their language. And then I would go to a bus driver, and there was no AC buses, 95. And he would make me sit in the front, sometimes for 1 hour, sometimes for 5 hours, sometimes till 1 in the morning. I'd be the last person on the bus, and he would go stop the bus in the middle of the jungle, and he would say, Nrsimha, in the middle, just into the blackness. And I was like, Nrsimha? Nrsimha, get off my bus. You know, and I don't know if you remember those small keychain flashlights. They used to give them out at conferences, and so I just had that. You know, my like few feet in front of me, and like there's just a path. But I was like, he said, there must be Nrsimha in there. So I would just go. And at that time, because I didn't have technology, now you can just say, what should I be careful of around me? And then it'll say, oh, in this area, there's tigers, there's leopards, man-eating. At the time, I didn't realize there's man-eating tigers and leopards in India, in that area. Nobody told me, or maybe they told me, but I didn't know what they were talking about. I was just all Nrsimha. So I would hitchhike, I would walk for kilometers, and some car would come by called a Scorpio. Scorpio was like the Bentley back in the day. If you were rich, you had a Scorpio. It's the most dangerous car ever made. But you had money, so I'd flag them down. And they would fit me in there with the other 30 people inside the car. You know, it was so wild. And they would come with me to the temple, speaking in, Kannada or Tamil. Like, I don't know what they were talking about, but we were going to see Nrsimha. And then they would all come in the temple. And I mean, it was fascinating. I would go to shopkeepers. They'd be opening the shop, and I'd be like, Nrsimha Temple, Devasthanam. And they would stop, and then they would take me on their scooter, or they would bring me to a rickshaw, pay the rickshaw dude. I never spent 1 rupee. I had so much money, but nobody took any money from me. I would just get on the buses, the taxis, the rickshaws. Everyone was so just kind. They were there to help me find Nrsimha. Women, children, kids, girls, boys, old, young. And if anyone spoke English, the first 3-4 months, I heard like, hello. I was like, oh my God, you speak English. Do you know where Nrsimha is? And then that's all they knew was hello. And the cool thing about India at that time was every single bus station would sell maps. So you have Tucson, and then within Tucson, you have the different areas. I don't know what this area is called. Like like in Florida, I live in Alachua County. So you have actually Alachua, and then you have Gainesville, and then you have Micanopy, you have Archer. So in India, they have like 20 billion of them. Taluks, right? What are they called? Taluka? Do you even know what they're called? Anyways, so you have the state, then you have the villages, then you have the sub-villages. They had a map for every single one, and I still have all those maps. So I got a hold of a pen, and I would open the map, and I would say, Nrsimha. And I would just ask everybody in the bus station, the train station, and they would start marking on the maps. And then I would go to the bus guy, and the adventures just kept going. I didn't realize I was freaking my parents out because I was very selfish on my journey. It was just me and him. I wanted to find him. And I only knew 2 forms, Lakshmi Nrsimha and Ugra Nrsimha. But then I was Bala Nrsimha, Bhadra Nrsimha, Chintamani Nrsimha, Kevala Nrsimha, and the list goes on and on. Swayambhuv Nrsimha. I would go into a cave, and there was just a wall with big eyes and a mouth and teeth. And I was being like, whoever took me there was like, where's the statue? Statue, right? Idol, or Murlava, they call in the South. It's deity. And I was like, that's not Nrsimha. No, Swayambhuv. I was like, what the heck is Swayambhuv? All I see is a wall with eyes and a mouth. So some yogini was doing tapasya there. So like Prahlad Maharaj says, by doing tapa, Nrsimha will come and sit before you. By doing tapasya. Sadhana is also tapasya. Nobody wants to get up for Mangalarti. Nobody wants to get up early, right? It's tough. So any tapa you can do, like not eating your favorite food, offer the results to the Lord. Sleep less or whatever, cold shower, whatever it is. It's not the craziness of it. It's the fact that it might be difficult for you and you're offering that to the Lord. So my tapasya was I never slept. I would hardly eat. I was very skinny before I got hooked up, married, I was like a stick. Sometimes I wouldn't eat for like weeks. Or they'd give me a little banana, the South Indian bananas. I had so many now I can't even look at them. You know, never got sick once. I would just literally sleep outside in the jungles or in the cave. I would show up and nobody was there, but I'd go up the mountain and there would be a cave. And sometimes something would run out of it, like a leopard or a tiger. And I would sleep inside there with Nrsimha with my little flashlight, you know, hearing stuff. But I never felt fear because I had this complete, I just knew, there's no way I can die because I'm trying to find him. And I wanted to put it to the test as well, my ego. And at the time I was, you know, brahmachari. And I was very institutional bureaucracy and colors. So I refused to wear saffron, anti-saffron, because I understood brahmachari is a state of consciousness. And so I guess I was a brahmachari, supposedly. And so the more tapa I did, not purposefully, it just ended up that way, right? And anything I would get, Nrsimha, thank you. Nrsimha, thank you. I'd go to bed. I love you, Nrsimha. Nrsimha, are you there? Sometimes I thought I was nuts when I'm talking to myself. Sometimes I'd see a tiger. In a Hogalam, I was walking, and there's a tiger called Scarface. He has a white line across his. I just saw him 2 years ago. He's still alive. So that means he must be at least 15 to 17 years old. Huge male tiger. He never attacked me, though. And I would talk to him. Like, I'm sorry I disturbed your darshan, because I would be climbing the mountain to go to Jwala Nrsimha, where, you know, the form that he killed Hiranyakashipu inside of a cave. And sometimes I would feel there's something there, like a being. And they believe the demigods come there, Shiva comes there, Brahma, everybody, Hanuman. I didn't believe it because I couldn't see it. That's the Western disease. If we can't see it and touch it, it can't be true. So I wanted to put that to the test. Nrsimha, you said, if I surrender to you, you will always protect me. So I kept pushing the limit of danger. Like Indiana Jones, you know. That was the only movie I was allowed to watch when I was a kid. We were not allowed to watch movies. And I always remember that, like treasure hunting, and I would find treasures, old deities, gold deities, coins, you know. I would just take them and give them to friends along the way. Swamis, you know. And then as I kept getting a little older, then I would meet Jayapataka Swami in some random village. He's like, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here? And he's like opening some new Namahata program. And I'm like, you know what I'm doing? I'm looking for Nrsimha. And he's like, oh, good, let's go. I need to have a break. Let's go. So he went, Radhanath Swami, you name it. Sridhar Swami, Bhakti Vikas Swami, pretty much all of them. Because at that time in India, they were really going to the smaller villages. And it was fascinating. Anyone I could snatch to help me find Nrsimha, I would do. And then I found out from an officer that the FBI was after me because my parents reported me dead or something, and they thought I died because I forgot to call them for 6 months, which I didn't think was such a big deal because they had 5 other kids and I was like on my mission. But I managed to manipulate the officer because his deity was Nrsimha. So I was like, Swami. In South they say Swami like we say Prabhu, or, you know. Swami, please, I have to go see Nrsimha. Please, just tell my parents everything's okay. So he forced me to get on the phone, and he had one of those sat phones like this big, you know, with the antenna. And so I called them, and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, everything's fine. I love you. Bye. And then I went to Tamil Nadu. Every state has their own way of worshiping and loving Nrsimha, but the core is the same. He is the Bhakti Vignasa, the remover of anarthas and spiritual obstacles. And, you know, I couldn't imagine, how is there millions of Krishna temples, Shiva, all these demigods, Ganesh. They worship Ganesh as God. It's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Ganesh is not God. He's the son of Shiva. Shiva is not God. He's the greatest Bhakta. So it was so twisted. because of the, whatever, people make up stuff and they want followers, fame, fortune. So I met a lot of these people along the way. Big Swamijis who are now very rich and very famous. And I would just go into their ashrams. There's one Amma, kind of a big mama, in Kerala. She's the hugging mama, and she speaks very good English. So once I heard there was white people going to see this Indian woman who hugs, I like to hug people. I'm a hugger. I'll take a free hug, no problem. So I was like, okay, I'll go see Amma. And I just walked in, I didn't care, because I grew up in ISKCON. So, the ISKCON sannyasis, who are very much loved and worshipped by their disciples, they're kind of uncles to me, because I grew up with them. So the awe and reverence type thing, I don't know. It's just how we all grew up. So similarly with these swamis or swaminis, whatever, I'd be like, excuse me, Americans are very loud. So I would use that to my, excuse me, do you speak English? They'd be like, sir, you have to wait in line. I was like, no, I don't wait in lines. I'm not waiting in a line. I'm not here to see you. I'm here to ask you a question. And then I just go right to the front. They would call me up and I'd say, Amma, do you know who Nrsimha is? And, I saw her years later and she was laughing at me because I was like a dirty hippie. I wouldn't use soap. I would just use my clothes. I mean, these I've had for like 25 years. I was just so, convinced in my body stuff I didn't care about. So, and she was like, of course. And she was like, oh, there's this one guy. Go, I will send him with you. He will take you to all the temples. Or this other Swamiji, Sai Baba, this little guy with the fro, He's a tiny guy. All Western disciples, thousands, bowing down to him. So I went into his ashram. The women were on the right side, the men were on the left, and I'm anti-rules from when I was a kid, And so I went on the woman's side. And then they would scream at me. And then but I couldn't bow. I just couldn't, my being wouldn't allow me to bow before him. Because I was like, why are they calling him Bhagavan? Why are they calling him Narayan? Bhagavan is Bhagavan, Narayan is Narayan, not this dude. So I would stand up and disrupt the entire ceremony, and then he would send his people to get me. And he was very kind. So I would go spend time with him after, and he spoke perfect English. And I was just normal with him. I was like, yo, Swamiji, do you know who Nrsimha is? And he's like, oh, I love Nrsimha. I was like, I love him too. He's very soft-spoken, I was very loud. He's like, I was like, Maharaj, can you take me to some of the, unfortunately I'm stuck in this role, And I was like, yeah, that's too bad, I'm free. But he's like, can I help you? Do you want money? And back then I didn't need money. I had nothing, nobody would charge me for anything. Everybody helped me. Now that I look back at it, he had stacks of cash. I should have been like, Swami, come cough it up. I could have done more because I only renovated 512 temples, but I've seen almost 1,500. So with the money, I could have done more. But whatever. So he sent me his private secretary, a translator, which I'd never had. So all these Brahmins are telling me the story, and I'm just acting like I know what the heck they're talking about. They call it the Stala Purana. So they're telling me in their language, and I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, what is the name of this temple again? I just, was acting like I understood what they were talking about, but I guess I kind of did in a way. Because some names would come later, Ramanuja, Madhva, Shankara, Maharaj Chhatrapati Shivji Maharaj, this crazy guy who defeated the Muslims with lion nails. He ripped open some guys with the Nrsimha mantra. So every state had an ownership of Nrsimha, which blew my mind because I thought he was mine. I'm the number one devotee of Nrsimha, right? That was not my thought, but I was like, I got to see him more. I got to find him more. No time to sleep. Definitely no time for girls and hanging out with friends. I was doing everything to avoid responsibility, even though I was very responsible. But the job and go to school and then marriage, so I kept, how am I going to stay in India? So I started businesses in India to fund my Nrsimadeva stuff. Everything, I got Indian citizenship from now the Prime Minister, because I did a billionaire a favor, which I didn't know was illegal, but anyways, a long time ago. So it all was for Nrsimha in the end. And every state would say, asked them in Andhra Pradesh, where Ahobilam is there any temples in Tamil Nadu? Which is right on the coast, Chennai. Why do you want to go to Tamil Nadu? Nrsimha is only here. He belongs to Andhra Pradesh. Tamil Nadu is like just fishermen. They're useless people. There's this state rivalry, like the Texans and the Floridans and the Californians and the New Yorkers. I thought it was awesome, but it was all for Nrsimha. And then I go to Tamil Nadu and their temples, and that's where I met a female, not like a Swamini, this whole new made up thing. She was like the real deal. She was a real mama. Amma, Yadagiri Padmanabhan, her name was. So I ended up going on a bus to Chennai, and as I was getting closer to Chennai, Madras, I saw a sign that said, American hot chocolate. I was like in ecstasy. Back then I used to like hot chocolate. I was like, oh, I got like salivating at the mouth, and it written in English. Finally, every other sign was the local language, and so I was like, American. And the bus driver stops right in front of the shop, Cafe Coffee Day, it was called. The most unhealthy stuff in the entire universe. So I jump out of there, all dirty, with my wooden shoes, and I go right in. I just go right to the front of the line. Because, by then I was already becoming like, a local. You don't really wait in lines, in India. So nobody gets mad, you just go for it. So I'm there and I'm like, 1 American hot chocolate, please. 2 rupees, in a little cup. And they were shocked, maybe because I was so dirty or whatever. And then these 2 beautiful girls come up to me. I was still a teenager, 17. They excuse me in perfect English. I thought they were going to get mad at me for, jumping in the queue. They're like, what's your deal? What are you doing here? And then I got annoyed because somebody's asking me a question because nobody spoke to me for like 5 months in English, now I'm being questioned. Are my parents here? So I said, well, as you can see, I'm trying to enjoy my hot chocolate. I became, I was like sarcastic and I didn't think they'd get it, but I didn't realize they were extremely well educated in the West and well drawn. So, and one was like, oh, is there a problem? You can't drink and talk at the same time? I said, yeah, but like I just want to enjoy this, please. It's my Maya. And so I just chugged it, the little cup. It was the most horrible hot chocolate I've had in my whole life. So I was like, Nrsimha. And I offered it, of course, Nrsimha, thank you. I was like, oh God, help me. So they said, no, but like, seriously, what's your deal? I said, well, I'm here searching for Nrsimha. And then they said, what? You're what? I said, I'm searching for Nrsimha. I said it really loudly, and they looked at each other. And they said, oh, you should come with us. I was like, come on. I ain't getting with no girl. I ain't going anywhere with girls, okay? And, I had a sister. No girl's going to tell me what to do. I was like, no, it ain't going to happen. Where's the bus station? They're like, oh, well, we'll take you. Come. Oh. So I was very, what do you call it? Paranoid. People gonna kidnap me or something? White boy. So I walk outside with them, and they're flanking me. One's on the left, one's on the right. And all of a sudden, these guys with machine guns start walking up, and I'm like, I just started. No, they're with us. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Like, no, sorry, this. This is our parents. They have to come with us. You know? It's really annoying. They said. I said, okay, but just take me to the bus station, right? They, yeah. I didn't realize then that sometimes girls can, you know, lie a little bit to get what they want or get you to commit. So I committed to get in their Bentley at that time. So I came out of the jungles and the buses, sleeping on the floor, and into a Bentley. And then one on each side of me, and we're driving with their security. And I see we passed the bus station. And they're talking in Tamil, you know. Like it's an interesting language. It's called the language of the boots and the rakshasas and the pischalas, the bloodsuckers. The devotees of Shiva. Shiva is so amazing because Narayan is always in Sattvagun, but he doesn't deal in Tamagun. So Shiva comes. Harihara. He has to deal with these crazy psychopaths. But he is not affected by it. You see, his wife flipped out. She didn't get what she wanted. Next thing you know, she's 32 arms and she's stabbing him. She's slaughtering everybody and trying to like kill him and molest him at the same time. And he's just totally his nature. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to chill. We drive for a little bit and then we show up at this big mansion. And the girls get out and they say, come. And I hear this bell, ding, 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 ding. Doors open. They go. She's expecting you. No, I'm American. She's expecting. Yeah, sure. It's like, why don't you hand over the tarot cards while you're at it, you know? I was very skeptical about that stuff. Until I, you know, had my own things that happened and I was a bit humbled. So I go inside and there's this Amma sitting in front of like an altar where Prabhupada is. And there must have been like 1,000 Nrsimadeva deities on all different levels. Big ones, like gold ones, like silver, ones covered in diamonds. This is like my dream altar. So I'm already thinking, oh my God, maybe I can steal that one. I can steal that. How can I get them? I didn't have a bag. So, and I gasped. I was like, spiritual envy, you know? And Amma heard me. She said, Vanga, come, sit down. She handed me a lamp and she said, yeah, he told me you were coming. I have to take you to see his temples in Tamil Nadu, right? And I said, yeah, there's temples. She said, of course there's temples. She was so awesome, like a mom. And then she told me her story. Her husband's a billionaire at that time, one of the wealthiest men in India. She couldn't have kids. Impossible. Back then, they didn't really have all this amazing alien stuff that they do now. I don't know, what's it called? Intro. Yeah, amazing. She flew everywhere, and her husband's seed was impotent. They were both impotent. So they flew everywhere. They figured they'd figure it out for years. And then one day she came back and she cursed God. And I could relate when she said this. She said, oh wow, thank you so much. She said, you, Bhagwan, how dare you give me woman, body, and I can't even have a kid. You're so cruel. She was cursing at God, which God doesn't get offended. Not like us, you know. If our wife or husband or kid talk to us, boy, oh boy, they're going to be grounded or ignored for days. So God doesn't care about that stuff. So that night she had a dream. Nrsimha came to her dream and said, you know, you have done nothing for any living entity in this world except for yourself. You haven't even done charity to the dogs and cats on the street. Yet you want something? Only through tapasya will you be considered. She was already pushing 50. So this woman, in South they were Mangala Sutra. It's they get it with their dowry. In case the husband dies, it's like 2 kilos of gold they're wearing. They can pawn it, you know. Hers was about 5 kilos, maybe. And she had her Rolex, all her big rings. She took everything off. She went to a temple called Sholingar, which is on top of this mountain. It's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there. Madhva, Ramanuja, Shankara, the Pandavas, you name it. Ram, Sita, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Krishna, Rukmini, Satyabhama. Even there's talk Lord Balaram went there, but even though it's not mentioned, but his whole trip wasn't really mentioned that much. And she stayed at the base of the mountain like a dog. And she crawled up the thousands of steps like a dog on her hands and knees every single day during Kartik for a month. And she would only eat what she was given, like a beggar, all the beggars down at the bottom. This billionaire, proud woman understood immediately. Determined, because God said, where's your love? Right? So she did it. And the last day of Kartik, Nrsimha came to her and said, 2 girls will come, born on this nakshatra, on Nrsimadeva's appearance day, 2 years apart, yeah. Both daughters were born, and those were the girls I met in the cafe coffee day shop. Now, I lost contact with them for 20-something years, and they just got in touch with me, like last year. And I didn't know that Amma died. She actually died not long after. She had given me all of her deities. Her whole altar was for me. Obviously, I'm not gonna. They built a beautiful temple in the memory of her mom. So when the girls told me, I said, absolutely not. You keep there first. So I'm gonna go see her in July, her samadhi and stuff. So her potency as a Nrsimha devotee blew my mind. And I thought I was committed and addicted. It happened like that every state, that Kerala, Karnataka, it just kept going. Gujarat. You know how many Nrsimha temples are in Vrindavan? There's like 50. Most people don't even know. Govardhan is like 15. Radhakund. Up to the highest, this place, Kedarnath, they say Shiva's place is not Shiva's. This is the place where Shiva went to meditate on Narayan and Nrsimha appeared. Shiva's favorite form and incarnation of Hari is Nrsimha, because it's the only form where the Lord was forced to go a little bit into passion and a little bit into anger. So Shiva loved Nrsimha. Krishna's like chilled out, Even Varaha wasn't that bad. Kurma, Matsya, right? Ram was far out. But Parshuram, yes, but that's different. Nrsimha is on another level. So Shiva meditates on him, and one of the mantras we're going to chant tonight when we do a quick yagya is the mantra Rajapada Stotram by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva worships Nrsimha and chants this amazing prayer. And he says, Yanama Smaranadbita. He says, anyone who thinks of your name, check this out. Shiva is so exalted. He says, Nrsimha, anyone who thinks of your name will have all diseases eliminated from their body. Just like you tore apart Hiranyakashipu's intestines, you will remove their diseases. We're talking about Ram Nrsimha. And the Rakshasas, the ghosts, the Pishchalas, they will run away in fear from their lives. And those are Shiva's people. I don't know if anyone believes in boots and ghosts. I never did, because it's like these things, they're real, but they can't mess with me. And he said, anyone who hears my prayer of love, he doesn't say anyone who hears my prayer, anyone who hears my puja. He said, anyone who hears my prayer of love to you, O Divine Father, will have all of their wishes come true. So in the Havan, which I learned when I was younger, in Gurukul we were taught the Havan, but in ISKCON they teach the Pancharatra system, which is a very small part of the Vaikhanasa Agamas, which Srila Prabhupada said many times, I'm only giving you a fraction, because he knew Westerners couldn't handle the download. It was too much. But I was lucky enough to learn that when I was very young from a lot of Nrsimha pujaris and swamis and amazing devotees. So these prayers are so powerful. One of them is by Vedavyas. Vedavyas is like the original guru. His prayer is so powerful to Nrsimha. Then we have the prayer of Lord Ram, called the Rama Vimochana Nrsimha Stotra. Ram went to Ahobalam, and he called Nrsimha, Ahobale Ahobalam. You are the most wonderful. You're smiling when you kill Hiranyakashipu, because you saved the boy, and you freed your other devotee. So you were not angry. You were Ahobale, smiling in ecstasy, joyful. So Ram offers this prayer, and he says, anyone that worships you, my Lord, he's talking to himself, because Ram is the next incarnation after Nrsimha. Anyone, oh no, Vamana was right. Yeah. Nrsimha, Vamana, Ram. No. Who was after Nrsimha? Vamana. Yeah, Vamana was, because Prahlad Maharaj's son was Vimochana. He was a Rakshasa. He had 2 children. Bali Maharaj was one of them. That's Vamana. And Nrsimha said, I will always purify your lineage. So Lord Ram was praying to himself as Nrsimha. Anyone who hears this prayer will have all of their debts removed. Now, this isn't your credit card debt. Isn't your car loan. This is your karmic stuff that your forefathers passed on to your forefathers, to your parents, then they passed on to you, and you're going to pass on to your kids. It's eliminated. And then he said, Lakshmi's nature is chanchala. The feminine, I have to be careful because there's Western women here. I'm not talking bad about women. But the nature of the masculine and feminine are different. Women are they can go any way, which way. Men are very simple, black and white, pretty boring sometimes. So this nature of not being held, dharamidar, like if you put water in your hand, the water will always go out. This is how Lakshmi is referred. So Ram refers to her like that. But Lakshmi says, anyone who worships my love, Nrsimha, I will remain with them. I will go against my own nature of moving, not staying. So that's beautiful that Lord Ram says that. And then we do the Shiva mantra. And then the last is the Nrsimha Stuti by Shanidev, the most volatile of all the planets. He's one of the greatest devotees of Nrsimha. That prayer is out of this world. So these 4 prayers are, the Rana was mentioned by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The Ugram Vira Mahavishnu mantra, we all know that mantra. Do you know who created that mantra? Do you know who first chanted that mantra? Ugram Vira Mahavishnu Galantam Sarvatomukam Nrsimham Bhishanam Badram Mrityor Mrityum Namamyam. The last sentence is the most powerful. Mrityor Mrityum Namamyam. Shiva says, only you put fear in the heart of Yama, and you are the killer of death. Nobody can kill Yama. His duty is death. No demigod, not even Shiva messes with Yama, Brahma, because that is his inherent duty, and you cannot get in the way. Unless, of course, Hari comes, then the Vishnu Dutas come. But Shiva says, you are the killer of Yama. And you strike fear into his heart. And then he goes into the rest of the stotram, which is called the mantra Rajapara stotram. So this mantra comes from Lord Shiva, the Ugram Viram. It's the beginning of the stotram. So I think oh no, I didn't. Oh, it's exactly an hour. Perfect. I mean, I could go on forever, but I mean, it's just not even the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, I'm still doing it, even though I'm old. I'll tell you just a few more minutes. I'll show you something really cool, because in India, traditionally, the women don't do puja. That's an ISKCON thing. That's something that I think as Westerners we take for granted, that Srila Prabhupada went against the tradition and principles of the Vaikanasa Agamas, Pancharatra Pradeep, and he blessed all the Western ladies to be able to do puja. Because of his potency, us Westerners are able to do so many things. So generally, the women won't go in the altar in India. Old ladies sometimes will sneak, they're like 70, 80, and the Brahmins will scream at them. They're coming on to collect the money. They can get away with it. But so I found many temples where it was generally queens. They would kind of go against the norm. Like, for instance, this form in Maharashtra, in a place called Ramtek. You see this form? See how beautiful he is? This is called Kevala Yoga Nrsimha. If you look in his his right hand, you see down there, he's holding the Sudarshan chakra. He's actually in meditation. His eyes are half closed, but he's holding the Sudarshan chakra to show the non-believers that at any moment he will protect his devotees. So this queen, you can see here on this side, there's a woman holding a man's hand in this painting. So that was the Rani. She was from the north. She married into the southern kingdom of Maharashtra. And generally the women have to take on their husband's god. So, they had a little chat before the marriage happened. And she said, my love, I just have to set the record straight. I will never not worship Nrsimha, and he is my love. He is my everything. And then she dropped the mic and walked away. So her husband was like, of course, we also worship Nrsimha, but they were more into the Ram aspect. They were married hardly for a few years, and he fell ill, and he was dying. So she walked him to the deity, this deity, which is 2,400 years old. One of the only places that the Muslims couldn't wreck in India, because this kingdom was so powerful. They slaughtered all the Islamists. So there's two temples. This is the one. This is the original one, 2,500 years old. So this is the one that she walked into. And imagine, this is like every man's dream. You're dying. Your wife's holding your hand and she says, Mera pyar, in Hindi, my love, my darling. What can I do for you when you are no longer? And he said, worship your love, your true love, Nrsimha, till your last breath, with your own hands. So she stayed a widow. Nowadays, guys die, girls die, and boom, we ain't widow for too long. Which is okay. But anyways, she was very committed to her love, Nrsimha. So the Brahmins start coming and getting on her case. Are Devi, Rani, you can't worship, you're still young. If you're over the hill, then you can kind of get away with it. No, you can't do it. She didn't get mad. She said, what's the word they use? If men aren't into women. Chauvinist or misogynist? Both. You know what she did? 100 meters away, she built a bigger temple. She built a bigger deity. And she worshipped there. And she died exactly where I'm sitting. It marks, there's a lotus flower there. She was offering the lamp and she died. It's written in the chronology of the archaeological department. Never let anybody go before him, but because of my research, they're all Nrsimha Bhaktas. I got away with it. And that touched me, because there's many stories like that in this book, talking about kids, women, grihastas, so many flavors of bhaktas who were the real deal, right? Like when you go to worship God, Prabhupada, what do you say? Take the nectar. That's bhakti yoga. Get the nectar. Like this temple, this is the temple I'm currently working on to renovate. It's very difficult. So you see how he's covered in green mold, his whole body here? The temple hasn't been worshipped for hundreds of years, and you can see this is the entrance. The door is right here. So I ran inside. I was searching for this temple for 20 years of my life, and I never found it because the temple was literally covered by a hill and vines. Only 4 years ago, I found it. And I ran in there. I didn't know there was cobras. There was a leopard living in there. All right, when I went inside, here's what he looks like now after we renovated him on the west side. He's huge. You can see my son and all the kids. I'll probably end up dying because I breathed in all that mold. But anyways, it's a good death. So this deity, when I went in there, something. I never snuck out when I was a kid, but I'm sure many of you snuck out to hang out with your friends when you were teenagers. I didn't get that fun. But all my friends, I know what would happen. They get beat, grounded, mom would smack them around. They get in big trouble. Or they'd show back up. They climb through the window, and there's dad sitting on the sofa. Where have you been? So this deity, here you can see a closer view of him. I went in there was no lights, nothing except the light coming through, and I stopped, and I didn't feel scared. I felt like he was there. Now, I had to become practical in my faith because some statues are statues. He's gone. When you have a statue, an idol, a murlava, you have to do the installation. That's why we do the whole. Some installations take 6 months, 3 months, if you really get technical. We're lucky. Ours is about, I think, 9 days, or maybe even shorter now, 3 days. We can do the whole procedure. But in the South, it's like 6 months. But this deity, he was there. And I kind of was like shocked. And then my other friends came in. I had a photo crew and a videography. They all were shocked. It was like we ran into an invisible wall. Like, I'll never forget this deity. Hulalu Nrsimha, a king of the Vijayanagara Empire, was going through with his big procession to go marry his soon-to-be queen. They set up his tent, and when he was going to bed, he was bitten by a king cobra, which is imminent death. So, just like Parikshit, he was very pious, the kings back in the day. He immediately took off all his stuff. The local witch doctor came and said, yeah, you will die now, but you must meditate on Nrsimha. He is the only one that can remove your poison, just like you removed Prahlad's poison. So he did. And in that spot where he removed the poison, so then the king built this tent. So many awesome stories like that, right? So this book is pretty fantastic. And then I did a lot of collaborations with the biggest museums in the world, which I'm not an academic. I told you before, I can't stand education. So this is the Philadelphia. I even did a collaboration with the Met Gala, with a LACMA, Los Angeles. I'm just a dude. I don't have, like Krishna Kshetra Swami, who was a good friend of mine. He's like a PhD, double PhD now. And, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was like a quadruple 50-time PhD, and him and I used to talk all the time. He loved Nrsimha. And he always told me, you're doing anthropology. And I'm like, stop telling me what I'm doing, okay? This has nothing to do with school. And he's like, it just means you're researching and cataloging. I was like, no, I'm not. But it ended up being like that. Like the bronzes, the iconography, the forms, right? So I wrote all these institutions. We all know the Louvre in Paris. They all ignored me for years. Who's this dude? I don't have a doctor. I don't have, whatever they have on there. I was even thinking about making a fake card, Dhruva Gorrick, doctor, PhD, quadruple PhD. And I just had this vision. Send them the first book. So I did 3 years ago. Just before I finished this book, I sent every single one of those snobby institutions, even Cambridge, even Harvard, even, you name it. And then all of a sudden, and I put in there, put a nice little card, Dhruva, with my WhatsApp, everything, my Instagram. And I was like, this section is so important for the iconography. This is Oxford. No one has ever been able to photograph this deity ever in the history. And they've had this deity for like over 100 years. It's the only ceramic terracotta deity of Nrsimha. So every single museum in the world has Hindu iconography, statues. Their most prized possession is not Krishna, Shiva, Kali, Durga, you name it. There's a billion of them. Their most prized possession is Nrsimha, because he is the rarest in iconography. That Cleveland, Kansas City. Oh, what's that? The Met. You can't just use their name. You know how much trouble I can get for putting the Met's name in there? That's their actual logo. They sent it to me. they could sue me for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I had to do the licensing fee. This section cost me like $37,000. Not because they were charging me, but they have their guidelines. You have to have a licensing fee so nobody can come after you. I can't write what I want. I have to write what they think. This deity is over 2,000 years old. They only think this deity is like 600 years old. It's totally wrong, but that's their. So they all worked with me. Once they got the book, first book, I started getting called. Hi, this is so-and-so from the Ziluv. Is Mr. Dhruva there? It was amazing. And they're like, what can we do for you? And I'm like, well, you have this man lion god statue. Yeah, we have many of them. And I'm like, no. You have one, the god of yoga, Yoga Nrsimha. Yes, we. And they were so cool. This is the loop right here. This is the loop. So a lot of these deities hadn't been photographed for 30, 40 years. So I had to pay for the photographer. I couldn't go in with my iPhone, it had to be professional, catalog. That's like thousands of dollars. But some of them were so amazing. The photographer would come in and I would be traveling in India to do my book and they couldn't reach me. So then they just paid the invoice and they're like, no problem, it's okay. Just leave it. And so I saved a ton of money and they all helped me in some way or another. So this book is the only Hare Krishna ISKCON devotee book that's already going to be in every single one of these establishments. Wow. Shop for sale at the front, the god of yoga. So that was what I wanted, is him, yes. Thank you. And if you look, the most important thing is in the beginning and the end. The beginning is dedicated to Prabhupada. Yeah. And then the end is dedicated to the beautiful boy, Prahlad, which is the devotees section. And you have Prahlad, and then you have historical devotees. And then I threw some pretty cool stuff in there. This is Lord Shiva worshiping Nrsimha. Check this out. Shiva's in the middle with Nandi. And then those people on the side, those are the Saptarishis. They're the original yogis. They're the one that created all the asanas which Patanjali spoke about in his Yoga Sutras. And then you have Nard Rishi. I think Narda is here or here, somewhere down there with the Veena. So I snuck that. This artist, he only does stuff from the Shastra. He's a crazy guy. The art section cost me over 100,000. Never deal with an artist if you don't have to. One of my brothers is an artist and it's like, just shoot me. And then in the Vedas and the Puranas, whose father is Hanuman? Vayu. No, Pranavayu. His name's not Vayu. Pranavayu is the most important of all the. What do you think how did Vishnu whisper into Brahma's ear? Through Pranavayu, the life air. Right? He's the most important of all the devatas. Because he's the one that, through Vishnu's mouth, so his children are Hanuman and Bhima. I didn't know Hanuman worshipped Nrsimha fanatically. I didn't know they believe he's still roaming in India. Well, he's eternal. I was told, stay away from these temples at this time. Hanuman comes, Garuda comes. And again, I'm American. I'm from Florida, man. We don't listen to you people telling us what to do. Hanuman comes. Sure, Hanuman comes. But then I had interesting situations. So then now I don't go at those times to respect whatever. Yeah, so now who is Madhva Acharya? We're Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Technically, we should also worship Shankara. He was a Vaishnav. He became a Mayavad for our benefit, and then he converted back into Vaishnavism at the end. He was a mad Nrsimha devotee. His Ishtadev was Nrsimha. Madhva's Ishtadev was Nrsimha. Ramanuja's Ishtadev was Nrsimha. So you have here Madhvacharya with Agni doing a yagya to Yoga Nrsimha Swami with Bhima and Hanuman. And in the background, you have Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, And then you have Shankara above Madhva, which is the Dvait and Advait. So this painting is crazy. It's such a nice, yeah, it's a beautiful. So the book really delves into the essence of Nrsimha worship, you know? And then my favorite, who I love so much, Ganesh, because of the story and how much love he has for Nrsimha. Nrsimha gave Ganesh purpose because Ganesh was going to commit suicide. So there's Ganesh worshiping Nrsimha. You can see down below there's a pair of shoes encrusted with jewels and everything. They're called padukas. You see them? There's a shalagram there. So Ganesha asked, you know, imagine your dad chops your head off, right? And then he puts an elephant head, and good luck getting girlfriend after that. You know? So Ganesh was a bit depressed, as you can imagine. He's Shiva's kid. He's Parvati, he's Durga, Kali's kid, but he's got an elephant head. So he was pretty depressed. So Narada comes in, like always, says, what's going on, my dear? I would end my life, you know, this is ridiculous, start over. And Narada said, why? Just go do tapa to Narayan. And Ganesh did. He went and did tapasya, thank you. And who appeared before Ganesha was Nrsimha. It's mentioned in the Brahma Samhita, but it's also mentioned in the Upanishads and the Puranas. Nrsimha said, yes, my son. Ganesha said, well, he said, ask me anything. And I said, I just want to be with you. Please take me. I have no purpose here. Take me with you. No. Prahlad tried the same thing. When Nrsimha finished, Nrsimha said, ask me anything. Please, you know what the first thing he asked? This is how on another level this kid was. He said, kindly remove all the envy, jealousy, fear, and pride from all living entities. I think it's about time we need a top up. We need that prayer again. Because we're so inflicted with a lot of those. That's what he said. Imagine, God, you ask whatever you want. I'll tell you, I got a big list. I'd like to win that $1 billion lottery. Need a new car. It's natural as humans. Oh, you know, I can get that surgery now. There's nothing wrong with it. We're conditioned. We're trying, right? But this kid asked for everyone else's benefit, and then Nrsimha knew what he was doing. Ask me again. Oh, please free my father. All the generations of your family are free from past and future. Okay, ask me for something for you. Prahlad said, I just want to be with you. Lord Nrsimha knew what he was up to. He was trying to get out of his responsibility. Now he is the king of his father's kingdom. Someone has to rule. Even though he was a boy, a bacha. So he had to rule. But he was trying to do what? Like Arjuna. Don't do his dharma. Run to the forest, put on some tree bark, and just kind of get away from it. I could relate to that when I was young. I'm out of here. My friends were getting married and engaged. I was like, oh my God, I gotta get the heck out of here. And Prahlad ended up being the most just king in the history of all kings because remember, Prahlad was a demon. His blood was Rakshasa, but he was a pure devotee. So he was the ruler of the Daityas and the Dhanavas. He was the ruler of the demigods and the demons. And they never fought. Just like right now, I don't get into politics. I can't stand politics. But, you know, I think there's 2 groups in our country. And one hates the other hates the whatever it is. A true ruler, a true king or president, blah, 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 is supposed to unite the people that hate them. You're supposed to kind of keep a bit of equilibrium and chilled outness, right? That's what we're supposed to do as a king. Prahlad did that. They never fought. And then he eventually got married. He had a kid. His kid was a demon. How is that possible? He was a pure devotee. Prabhupada said it's not guaranteed. He said there'll be many demons in the disguise as devotees and are born into our movement and joining our movement. So just because, and it's not bad, it just is what it is. So, yeah, anyways, so Nrsimha, it's very important that we worship him and bring him into our lives, whether through We're going to experience this yajna together. Now the yajna, listen, if you guys listen to this, because it's a very important, Srila Prabhupada was very serious about yajnas. Even though he didn't get into the depth of them, you have to remember Srila Prabhupada was here very quickly. So the Nrsimha Yajna is the most powerful of all havans, because the Navagrahas worship Nrsimha. So I already installed the 9 planets. Brahma comes, Shiva comes, Ganesh comes, the Devatas come. Agni is there, Yajna Purusha is there. Through them, they're like the water filter. They purify our impure offerings. But the most important thing in a yajna is not the swaha and just like a robotic, like sometimes we chant our rounds like robots. I had to finish my 16 rounds, but they're pretty bad rounds. Most often they're aparadnam. So when I'm chanting these prayers by these exalted devotees, the devotees say, just hearing my prayer to Nrsimha, all of your wishes and desires come true. So what are you going to wish for? I pray for your health and success. We need good health. As a devotee, to neglect your health is to slap God in the face. You have to be healthy. You have to be strong. I pray for your health, your success, the foundation of your life. There's no such thing as a material life when you're a devotee. You can be working at Starbucks. It's not material. You're trying to be a devotee. It's spiritualized. Who says you cannot have nice things? Prahlad Maharaj was the king of the freaking universe. He had floating palaces. Okay? So, I don't know. I don't see anybody. What was the two? Was it, which Goswami was like the billionaire? Was it Jiva or Rupa? The two brothers?
Rupa.
Yeah. How rich? He comes from. So rich. He did. Mahaprabhu never said, give it up, you're in Maya, dude. No. So it's like, he just, like Prahlad says, spirit, hey, Narayanayati, everything comes from you, everything is for you. So this yajna is very powerful. Pray. When you say swaha, swaha means, please give me. We're his children. We have a right to ask our Divine Father for protection and for help. You know your individual things. I don't. I don't read minds. My wife can read mine though, but I don't have that ability yet. Still trying. But I will be praying for the subtle things, but you guys pray for your things. You know, especially the health is very important. And please come very, very, very close. I like to be very. Hey there.
Might I ask a quick question?
Sure, yeah.
You mentioned briefly in the beginning the Skala Puranas that are these kind of localized stories. I imagine in addition to the photos, you're preserving what 99% of Westerners have never heard. A lot of these stories, I imagine, like Lord Ram visiting people. Is that, as part of your restoration, is that material somehow being preserved or translated into English? Or?
Oh, yeah. Well, most temples, I've done 512 now. I'm getting too old to do more. And I paid for it all. So I got married now, so I can't, it's no longer, it's not mine. It's not my money anymore. So I have to think of my, the wife and kids. So, but when I do a renovation, we put a plaque in English and the local language. And then I have an app where I